Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone.
Hey.
Hey, Amber, Nina, Suzanne, Aisha, Jana. This is me practicing names. Is it
like reading
Erm?
room?
Yes, Erm, yes. Minaxi. Yeah, close. If I got it even, correct me. I love being corrected. The only problem with correcting me is that sometimes it doesn't stick and then I feel worse, but I really welcome it. All right. Welcome everyone to the Facilitator Cards Playground. I'm Meg Bolger. You know me from emails, if from nothing else, but this is what I look like. And I'm really excited to be hanging out with y'all today. Can you give me a show of hands if this is your first playground? Yeah. Okay, some folks, returners, got some new folks, wonderful. So little bit of intro to the playground. Let me do this. Yeah. So a little bit of intro to the playground. Facilitator Cards Playground is kind of like a facilitation nerds power hour. So what we're going to do is we are going to kind of get to see things from both sides, both from the participant side and from the facilitator side. So during this hour, I am going to facilitate 2 of our trusty facilitator cards. And you're going to first be kind of in the participant's seat, and I'm just going to ask you to be the awesome participants that you are, and do this process. And then after we do the process, we're going to put on, hold on, I have it, our facilitator hats, and look at the process again from just like the perspective of did that work? How did it work? Why did it work? How can we tweak it? All that kind of good stuff. So that's what we do at the playground. I thought we would start with just a really quick little, icebreaker question. So here's my icebreaker question for the day. What is your favorite type of furniture to sit on? Okay, I'm going to go first because I didn't land on this initially, but I like my answer, which is I love corners of kitchen counters. Like, if I just get to prop up on a kitchen counter and have a chat with you in the kitchen, beautiful. Okay, anyone else out loud or in the chat? Favorite type of furniture to sit on?
I love a good floor cushion with a couch behind me. So I'm leaning against the couch, but not sitting on the couch.
Okay, and the cushion is not from the couch. You didn't pull it, but it's a floor cushion.
Yeah, like a specific, like a meditation type cushion, one of those. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Welcome, folks. We're just doing a quick, what is your favorite type of furniture to sit on? Anyone else? Suzanne?
I like a yoga ball when I'm watching, those big round ones.
Yep.
The problem is when I'm doing this on Zoom, I end up doing this.
Okay, so don't watch
so
Suzanne.
I have to be really careful.
Don't watch Suzanne if you get motion sick. All right. We got lounger by the pool. Yes. Love that. It an end table. Yes. Love sitting on tables. Okay. Anyone else?
I'm just going to high five both Amber and Suzanne and say, yes, I feel you on both those things, and the cautionary tale of be careful when you're on Zoom doing that, Suzanne. Yeah.
Nice. The corner of an L couch. Yes. Okay, great. All right, wonderful. All right, that's such a wonderful amount of variation. Oh, Maisha, I saw you on mute. You want to go for it?
Oh no! Oh, I just put my answer in the chat.
Oh, you did. Oh, perfect. Okay, great. Oh yeah, end table. You were end table. Perfect. Okay, sweet. Okay, well, now that we have covered how many different types of furniture you can sit on, we're ready to get going. So the first thing that we are going to do today is we are going to make a classic Venn diagram. You know it, you love it. You probably haven't facilitated it much because I haven't. But we're going to do a Venn diagram, and we're going to do a Venn diagram of facilitating in one circle and presenting in the other circle. and we're going to see what we come up with for the differences and for the overlaps. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to spotlight myself. I'm going to make magic happen. And we're going to fill this out together. So we've got things that are unique about facilitating, we've got things that are unique about presenting, and then we've got where those two things overlap. And what I need from you is, let's see, there's 12 of us. Okay, so what I need from you is ideally for you to either raise your digital hand or throw in the chat, so just so I can call on you, an idea for you to put into this Venn diagram. So if you have thoughts either about facilitating, presenting, or the overlap, go ahead, hit the, it's in the reactions button at the bottom, and then raise digital hand, and I'd love to get as many different ideas from as many different folks as possible. Okay. Noxie. See, I can't remember now. You're up to tell me.
Authentic way. And you don't have to be authentic in how you pronounce. How you pronounce is your authentic. But the traditional way would be Meenakshi.
Meenakshi.
Yes.
Great. All right.
Okay.
Where do you want to add?
Facilitating.
Okay.
And I'm not very good at being succinct, so bear with me. You'll have to translate that. So the facilitator avoids bringing in their own point of view because they're the facilitator.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I was curious if we can frame it in terms of facilitating versus facilitator. So like the act of facilitating is like, is there a way you would phrase that kind of same share back? It doesn't necessarily reflect the views of the person.
Observer.
There's more an okay. Observer, is that the word I'm hearing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Observer doesn't necessarily reflect views of leader. Okay. All right. I see some stuff coming in the chat, and then we're going to go to and Marie. Okay. Amber's got info exchanged. Start us off here. Info exchanged. Presenting is explaining to the audience. Okay, explaining to an audience. Delivering information. Okay, and then we've got guiding a group over here. All right, go ahead,
It's maybe just one more thought on the presenting, and that's all I thought of is it's usually one-way engagement for me. That's how I experience a presentation.
Yeah, one-way engagement from the person presenting to the audience, right? Even that language of audience to me kind of implies like a one-way exchange. Yep. Okay, great.
So I wrote nasty questions.
What do you mean?
Powerful questions, or whatever you want to call them.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Okay, which for me is applicable in both.
Oh, applicable in both. Okay, there can be powerful questions kind of engaged with or put out into the group.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Great. When you said that comment, I didn't know how to read nasty questions, and I thought you meant my question to you was a nasty question.
I thought so. That's why I repeated it.
Got it. Okay, perfect. All right, Marie, go ahead.
Yeah, so maybe audience isn't the right word, but I thought shared is a presentation or a workshop. They both have to be designed with the target audience in mind. So we could do like audience/participants, but it's not just, it's not I'm not going to make comparisons, but I think you still have to think of the audience in both cases.
How about receivers? Design with the receivers in mind. Yeah, you want to be thinking about both of those. Yeah, great. Presenting, you're an expert. And I love this. And then facilitating, pulling out the expertise from the group, from the audience. I went and got it corrected to group. All right. What else? What else we got? Anything we haven't listed so far? Or do you have another one?
Yeah, facilitating typically in my experience allows for engagement among the participants.
Yes. Great. Yep. Minashi. No. Yeah, close.
Yeah.
Go for it.
About kind of responsible, like personal accountability or responsibility, not necessarily that they're responsible from the worldview, but my own take on it is to have fringe voices heard.
In
And-
facilitating?
Yes.
Okay.
So the way, noticing who are the people who haven't spoken yet or who have not,
Yep.
so that sort of thing.
Okay, great. Kate. I saw you before. Oh, where'd you go, Kate?
Sorry, I was on
you're
mute.
good.
I was talking to myself.
Okay, perfect.
I was going to put in the middle that there's like leadership involved in both.
Yeah. Another way I might say that is like there's just disproportionate responsibility in like there's a hierarchy of like, well, maybe that's a separate point. There's leadership and there's also like responsibility that is unique to the person leading. I guess that's what I want, like to that leader.
Yes.
Requires preparation. Okay, shouldn't surprise me that so far we have been much more interested in filling out the facilitating side than the presenting side, as the group we are. Okay, Dove, yeah, you got another one, go ahead.
Yeah, so this for the presentation, the
Yep.
predefined set of slides or script or plan.
Okay, I like the predefined plan, possibly set of slides. Okay, so I'll pause us here to ask, is there anything we want to add to the middle that you haven't really thought of before, or that you're like, I guess this is true that they both do X? Anyone we haven't heard from yet so far? See Marie or Jana, Nina, Suzanne. Realizing I could have been reading all your comments out in the chat. So we have heard from you in other ways. Okay. Marie, what did you want to add?
Well, I was thinking of adding something to the facilitating list,
Mhm.
and then I thought maybe it works in both. I was going to say that if you're facilitating, there's like trust building involved with the participants, and you're sort of building a relationship. But there's a relationship being built if you're presenting, right? But you're maybe not aware of every participant's like the relationship that they're building with you in their mind.
Yeah, right. That's really interesting, because the thing that's coming to mind for me is there's people that I listen to on podcasts where I feel like I really understand them. I understand their worldview, I understand their perspectives. Like I have a lot of trust in what they say, right? But we have no back and forth in order to establish that relationship, right? So there isn't a relationship being built, but it's a really different way to build it. Yeah. Okay, super interesting. All right, I'm looking at the time.
The
go
other
ahead.
thing that I put is that both can be interactive.
Say more about the interactive piece.
That the group is able to contribute in some way.
Okay. With presenting, do you see that happen like in so to me, presenting is this one-way exchange, but it's not that a presenter won't move into like a Q&A or asking people to like turn to the person next to them. I would just personally say like that's a moment where they flip into facilitating. Do you see something different?
I would have to think on that.
Okay.
I do see
Yeah.
something different.
Okay, great. Tell me more.
So it's not just the facilitating, because to me, facilitating is, and that's part of where my hand is raised, is for a facilitator, it's like an open space emerging.
Mhm,
Whatever will emerge will emerge.
mhm.
For a presenter, hence, I don't consider that flip as a facilitator because they are still with the predetermined set of outcomes or the guidance that they want to give. So in that sense, it's not really a flip of a role.
Right. Like, raise your hand if you've ever blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, you're not really facilitating. You're getting us to get involved and, turn to your neighbor and say X, Y, Z, like that kind of things can happen during presentations as well.
Yeah.
And so there's room for the people there to be involved in the process and interactive in some ways. But I see that as being distinct from how I define facilitation.
Yep. Got it. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense to me. There's elements of keeping people's attention, of getting people involved versus this kind of like emergent, like we don't even necessarily know, like I don't know what's going to happen when I ask a question or when I throw things out to the group. And that's kind of inherent in facilitation versus presenting like I know where we're going. Somebody said they both have a start and end point, but the way you get there is really different. All of us have probably been in sessions where we're like, does this end? I don't know. But like, yeah, that idea of like, we might have time-wise, they might be like time-bound things, but what happens in the middle is just really, really different. Okay. All right. I'm going to pause us here and give you just a moment to like look over this list that we made. I'm going to disappear actually to make that happen. Okay. All right. I'm going to take this off of Spotlight for a sec and bring us back to Gallery if you're not in one yet. So I want to so we just did Venn diagram, right? The process of like just creating and building a Venn diagram. And I want to know a little bit, like now I'm going to ask you to put your facilitator hat on, right? For this perspective and just think about like, what was that process like? Was it useful? Was it interesting? Were there things that we could have done differently to make it, to change it or to bring it to life? What was your experience as a participant that would be helpful to hear and process for all of us as facilitators? Suzanne?
I think if I had had a minute to think about it and write some things down first, I think that's a technique we all use. I think that would have, I think, helped get a lot more out there quickly and maybe a few more ideas.
Yeah. Yeah. I love in facilitator card box land, like the minute papers, like I just want to put minute papers before everything. And I actively resisted it, but I agree with you. I think it could have been really helpful in this case. Yeah, Marie.
I think so maybe not the way that you presented it today, but just the exercise in and of itself is useful to get out of binary thinking in an interesting way, because we're so used to being like, okay, facilitation is this, presenting is this, or whatever issue, right? This is this is that, that is that. And the focusing on the middle portion is really interesting. So if someone writes something on one side, for example, and we're like, oh, but does it also apply maybe to the other one? And find out we actually have, for two issues or two problems or whatever, there's actually more things in common than there are not. Mm-hmm. I like that about the structure of this exercise.
The structure. Yeah, great. Dove.
So two things. One, a Venn diagram is binary. So what I would have done is put two axes, one how much of a facilitator role is it, and one how much of a presenter role is it, and then put the items somewhere. It can be 100%, 100%, or 100, or 50-50, or 150. See, so to leave more flexible the grouping.
Sure.
And
Well,
the second thing,
I just to respond really quickly to that, I think that exercise is great. It's just not Venn diagram, right? So we were like specifically like I think your feedback is like, this isn't how I would want to explore this question, right?
Yes.
Of facilitating versus presenting. Super valid. Okay, second thing.
Second thing is the fact that you controlled the dialogue. That every answer goes through you and then put on the board for everyone, while we could have done it just by you giving us a board, you know, where we can write and share the board with us and just in silence put your ideas.
How do you think that would have changed things?
It would be much faster and less at least me, I would feel more autonomous. Like I'm not making a noise when I put my opinion.
Got it. Yep. Great. Totally agree. Okay, Nina, and then maybe we'll have time for one more.
So I actually did something very similar this morning in a class that I was facilitating, which was asking our instructors, what is the difference between an instructor and a facilitator? And it was very black or white. So I like this idea of like, you can be both. You know, you can be an instructor and you can be a facilitator, presenter, similar, you know, concept. So I do like that. I typically give them, you know, we're in Zoom, we annotate on the screen with that, and it is a little more anonymous. It doesn't go through me, and then we feed that, and I ask our participants to, who said this? Can someone give me your feedback? What did you say about this? So I can see a little bit of that as well. So, but I think I'm going to change what I'm doing and maybe do it as a Venn diagram.
Cool. Okay, great. Yeah, go ahead, and then we'll wrap this part up.
Thank you. Yeah, super quick. The opportunity to have taken, I mean, doing it point by point obviously would hog up a lot more time, but it's like the opportunity to go deeper on one, you know, one thing that was posted, because I found my mind popcorning to things. Then I would come back and go, oh yeah, actually, and I would want to add something to that, but just didn't. So, and the minute paper might take care of that, a bit of it anyway, but yeah, going deeper on the points.
Yeah, I think that there's maybe two ways we could have done that. One is the autonomous, like you all being able to add things, right? You could actually get stuck in like, I just want to think about the leadership part of it, or I actually just want to talk about the pre-planning part of it, right? And we could have gotten way more depth in that. And then, yeah, like minute papers, if you do that beforehand, you have time to get some of those thoughts out, which means you can bring a lot more specificity to this moment. Into the big shares. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I always learn a lot from doing those processes with all of you. Okay, we're going to do one more process. We're going to do one more process today. And we're going to have a discussion about the necessity of group norms. And some of you are like, ooh, yeah, all right. So, okay, great. So this is how we're going to do it. We're going to do it a little bit like debate club inspired. Okay, so if anybody on this call is got a history in debate, please know that this is not going to have anything to do with your experience of debate. This is Meg's janky version of a debate club. Okay, so here's our key question. Our key question is going to be, group norms should always be explicitly established at the beginning of a workshop. Okay. That's going to be the thing we're debating. And I need one person who's up for representing the yay. Yes, absolutely. They should always be established at the beginning of the workshop. And I need one person to volunteer for no, I don't think that's necessary. You aren't going to do the whole process like by yourself, but you will be the representative for your side. So would anybody be up for being the, yes, I think group norms should always be established at the beginning of a workshop. Anybody up for being that person? Yes. Okay, awesome. Noxie. Okay, and is anybody up for being the no? I don't think it's necessary for them to be established at the beginning of a workshop.
I can do that.
Yes. All right. Okay, perfect. So, so we're gonna have 3 breakout rooms. Okay. The breakout rooms are going to be yes, group norms. They're going to be no, not necessary. And then if you are somebody who's like, I don't have strong opinions on those 2 things, I would like to instead ask questions of those 2 groups. Then you can be in the not sure, I'll ask questions. Okay. So
Just to clarify, not
Yep.
necessary means never necessary?
No, it's just not always necessary.
Okay.
But it's debate club, right? So we kind of want to go a little harder into the 2 sides. This is like, we're going to have, all of us have probably nuanced conversation about this, but the goal to me of us having a conversation in this style is that, like, what can we learn from kind of going towards the extremes, right? Like, what can we see? What can we understand if instead of spending time in the gray and in the middle, we actually pull ourselves into the sides and actually like live into those like yay or nay positions just for the sake of 15 minutes, you know? So I'm going to invite you to try to leave a little bit of that gray area and that nuance, and instead really put yourself into the yay or nay camps, unless you're not sure, and then you can go into the I'll ask questions group. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. In a moment, I'm going to open up the breakout rooms. Okay, there will be 3 breakout rooms. I'm going to also make sure that I put this in the chat. Okay, so that's our question. I'm going to open up the breakout rooms. You are going to have the ability to opt in to whichever one you want. When you're in that room, okay, if you're in the yay room, then you are working with Noxie to establish the yay positions, right? Come up with the best arguments for yes, always, absolutely, super important, okay? If you're in the no room, you are like working with Suzanne to be like, no, let's come up with our positions and why no, why it's not necessary, okay? And if you're in the not sure room, your job is to come up with questions to bring back to those 2 sides, okay? I'm going to give you about 5 minutes in the breakout rooms. Then I'm going to bring folks back, and Monoxy and Suzanne will have 2 minutes each to present initial arguments. Okay? Any questions about those directions? Okay. If you get, well, we'll see. I'm just going to trust and see how the breakout rooms work out. I'm not going to like preload them. And if you have any trouble like accessing, like, hey, Meg, I want to go into the yes room, just throw that in the chat and I'll move you. Okay. All right. I'm going to open them up. See you all in 5 minutes. Okay, anyone having trouble getting into the rooms? Tell me where you want to go.
I'm good. I'm just watching the numbers.
Yeah, me
I can go on either side.
Nice.
So I'll go to
What a
Alaska.
facilitator move, y'all. Hello, hello, welcome back. So everyone went right to time, which means you were probably talking and like squeaking in the last thoughts. So if there's anything you want to finish in the chat, feel free to do that. Otherwise, hope you had a great conversation with your crew. What I'm going to do is I'm going to spotlight our 2 representatives to start. And here we go. Okay. You're getting some love. Okay, let's start with the pro side. Let's start with the yes. I am going to keep time. So I'm going to just have you both go for 2 minutes. So if you see me come into the spotlight, if I end up spotlighting myself, know that is because you need to wrap up. So if you don't see me, then you're still good to go. Okay. Okay. Minashi, go for it.
I'll get straight down to business. So we were the group who thought that it's a good idea to explicitly always discuss the team norms. And we did have a caveat that they are co-created with the participants. So it's not didactic or dictated. We said that, everybody in this group needs to feel safe and everybody will have different needs. So this kind of process will make everyone, the expectations clear, and will also bring all the different needs in the middle and kind of talk to that. As a result, it'll promote safety for the participants, and people will be able to relax, know what to expect. If during, a passionate discussion, things get out of hand, the facilitator is also in a position to feel safe enough to point the team back to the norms that, we all agreed to. That will reduce unnecessary conflict and, keep the main conflict or the problem solving on the table in focus. And it'll also save time. So let's say, it's the next day, people are coming back. We can always say, hey, we've already discussed the team norms. They continue to be in place. And there's one other thing that we as a team thought about the team norms is we'll keep them fluid. So during the working sessions, if there was a need to alter and adapt the team norms, we would do that in consideration of whatever was emerging at that time. So it reduces or balances or avoids harming individuals or group needs, etc., and saves time. So this is why we say yay.
Way. Okay, everybody. Zoom applause for that. Yes, wonderful. Okay, great. All right, Suzanne, your 2 minutes.
All right. Okay, so we decided that no, it's actually a waste of time to go ahead and do the norms ahead of time, because you don't know whether your group is really mature enough or has knowledge enough of each other. And the best way, if you are going to establish rules, is to think about it as maybe an outcome of the exercises as you go along. So how did that exercise go? What went well? Maybe that should be a norm. And this way actually builds trust within the participants as you go through the workshop, because there are situations where, you may have a minority coming into a majority. And if you set the rules together as a group ahead of time, you may not have everybody, especially a minority feeling, within this majority. I don't want to speak up because I'm, my opinion's going to be a little bit different than everybody else's. So it'd be better to develop these rules as you go along as an outcome. And it also allows, I think, for better trust building.
All right. Okay. Great. Wonderful. That was succinct and right there. And I love that the thing we ended with on the pro side was the thing we started with on the no side, which was it'll save time. It is a waste of time. Love it. Sounds like we won. All right. Maisha is still a nay. All right. Dove and Nina, want to throw out a question or two to our group? Well, just one. We'll just start with one question. Want to throw out a question to either side or both?
Sure. We actually we came up with a few questions here, and part of it was like, why do we, what will be the benefit? And so I think this is for both groups, and what will be the benefit of having those norms defined or not defined? What is the benefit of that? And we've heard a little bit, I think, from both of you, but
do you have are there another, is there other questions you have too?
So we did also like, why do the norms need to be formalized?
Okay.
And like the one question that I think that I would pose is, what does it mean, a normalization or definition of norms? Because it's never 0% defined, because otherwise some of us would be now naked, right? But we all have clothes, even if we didn't discuss this, and it's never 100% defined. So where is the level of definition that we're defining when we say well-defined?
Okay. One, I want to modify the question a little bit, but keep that essence, which is in the like key question that we were dealing with, right? Is explicitly established, right? And to me, that just means you carve out time and say, we're going to talk about group norms, right? And versus we're going to do that as we go, right? And that's kind of what I heard from both of you. So what I heard in that question from Dove was like, what makes it valuable to just have it be like carved out and explicit? And what I heard from Dove was like, and how defined do you want to go in that moment? So responses from either or both of you.
I mean, the value, so you're asking what is the value of having a norm? Is that the question?
Well, I think for you, yeah, and for your side, it would be like why that's not worth doing, like carving out explicit time or making time to really go into that, level of specificity.
Oh, I just think it could work against the group as a whole. It could work against the trust that you're trying to build. So if you carve out time right in the beginning, we're going to talk about norms, and you have individuals that are uncomfortable speaking up, they are not going to be heard. And then you've already lost, some of your participants because they didn't get to say something because they just didn't have that feeling of trust. And I think you need to spend time building that first.
This is beautiful. I just want to add on it. Or someone who arrives 10 minutes late to the workshop. And now they're faced with the norms that they don't even know exist.
Sure. Meenakshi, do you want to tap out and tap in Amber? Is that what I saw in the chat? Amber, are you up for it?
Okay, I think Amber said no.
Okay, great.
Okay.
No thanks.
No is a good answer. All right, so.
Okay. So we in our explicit time given to explicit norms, we did make that space for the minorities, or as a situation might warrant or arise where these norms were not in the best interest, then we would go back and redesign them. So that takes care of, either the person walking in late or the minority voice. And designed smartly, that explicit kind of framework does actually, at least just my personal experience, where I usually feel very difficult to speak up. So I think Amber did that on purpose, saying no. So had she not said no, had she taken my kind of like, please help me out, please speak up, right? She would have actually not allowed this minority voice to come in. But in our agreement was like, no, Meenakshi is the person who's going to speak up. So you see, in fact, in this case, it was that person who would have tried not to spoke up in this case. Okay,
I love that. I love that you made it meta. To like this moment. What a great technique. Yes, so meta. So thank you both so much for being our representatives and being on the spotlight. This is applause in American Sign Language, and I think it works really well in visually in Zoom. Okay, so I want to leave 2 minutes for just any thoughts about group norms that formed during this conversation. Like if you that you're like, I hadn't thought about this particular part. 2 minutes for that, and then we're gonna shift to facilitator hats. But any insights about or from group norms from this conversation?
I was just going to say, and I really had, when I started this, had no really yes or no feeling toward it one way or the other. But we did talk about using it as a means to build trust. And I think that could be helpful. I hadn't thought about it that way. So I think that's something I might be thinking about with respect to whether or not we need to establish norms, depending on what the workshop's about, of course.
Yeah, interesting. Go ahead, Kate.
I thought a lot about, which I hadn't thought so much about before, is the, like, who are the norms really for? Are they for me or are they for the group? So just the amount of control that I'm, as a facilitator, I'm trying to exert on the group, and whether that's necessary or positive.
Great question. Yes. Go ahead, Erin.
I just thought, actually, we didn't discuss this, but the importance of exploring the question of norms, if you're going to do it, before the event actually happens. So Meg, for example, we knew that this session was going to be recorded. And so maybe that's a norm in your events. And we were given the opportunity, hey, if you have a problem with this, I can't remember what the action was, but if you have a problem with this, then email me or whatever. But I think there's an assumption made that when we gather virtually, that everybody is comfortable either A, speaking or putting something in the chat, where people sometimes are not comfortable with either option. And so then what do you do? How can you still engage them in this discussion?
Yeah. Something that's so interesting, something that's so interesting, like I have moved in this conversation, not in this moment, but like as a facilitator, when I started facilitating, I was 100% explicit group norms, beginning of every workshop, 100% of the time. And now I think I'm basically the complete, I almost never do explicit group norms. If I'm doing a 2-day workshop, I will still rarely do explicit group norms. And I really think it's because like I have figured out how to establish it pretty quickly with my responses to people and norming it. But what you just said made me go, no, I just moved them ahead of time. Like that's what I did. I actually just put them in the registration form and was like, it's going to be participatory. You can't come after 10 minutes. It's going to be recorded, right? And those are all establishments of norms, especially around participation. And I hadn't really thought about like, actually, I just moved them to a different part of the workshop. So that new thought for me. Okay, I'm gonna move us into, and I am gonna, Amber, if it's about the meta of it, we can get into it. If it's not, I'll have you either throw it in the chat, because I know like now we've stirred people up and they're like, I also went on that journey. Okay, what I wanna know is debate club. What'd you think of the process of debate club? Insights, thoughts, perspectives for facilitators about that as kind of a method of discussion and discovery around a topic. Yeah, go ahead, Marie.
I like the way you framed it, being like, I know a lot of you might be in the middle, but just for the sake of this workshop, let's try and explore the extremes, right? And giving that prompt made me go into the no camp instead of the questions camp. You know, I with that invitation, I sort of challenged myself to be like, okay, so what if I argue for this side actually? So I like that framing.
Cool. Maisha, I saw you say loved it in the chat. Are you up for saying a little bit more in the chat or out loud?
Yeah, loved it because I've been staring at that card because I want to use it, and I teach critical race theory in Texas, so that, I mean, just the topic itself, like all the things that I want students to debate, that I'm just like, no, I'll present. So I mean, I guess I see what it looks like, and then how you kind of walked us into it using the Venn diagrams, which I love.
Interesting.
I can,
yeah.
I don't know. You just unlock some doors and windows for me. I don't
Great.
Yeah.
Great. I'm glad sometimes seeing it in action just gives us a new kind of like, oh, that's all it is, or that's what it is. And that gives me permission to go into it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, we'll go Kate, Suzanne, and then Dove.
So sorry, slow on the unmute. I wanted to say that I felt like it was really sort of like in the middle school debate club facilitation of this. It's like you choose one side or the other, and I appreciated that there was a middle ground, and also just appreciated that that like I went on Meg's journey in this one little activity. So like this idea of the fact that like challenging yourself to put yourself in a place where you don't think that you're like you're not on the side that you would typically choose, and then like arguing yourself into it is very powerful.
Suzanne.
I haven't used this technique, but I guess I just have a question, which is, it seems to be more appropriate for a closed-ended question. I mean, it's like almost a yes/no question, or it's this or it's that. And I was just wondering if anybody's used it for more open-ended questions, or is that really just not the right tool for, how best can we? Maybe there's another tool for that. So I was just wondering if anybody used it for anything besides like a yes/no question.
I don't know if anyone I don't see anyone jump in to say they have. I could see it. I could see it in that you could do it in a couple of parts, that you could say, what's the best way to establish trust within the first 10 minutes of facilitation, right? And maybe source some ideas, and you could have like group norms, you could have like a powerful connecting icebreaker, you could have jump right into it and let people, feel how you facilitate and what the other people do in the group, right? And then you could say, okay, we've got 3 different ideas. I want 3 different sides. I want everybody,
Okay.
like I want, you know what I mean? So like, source the options.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would say. But I would say like, if you get more than my instinct, and I'd love your all's reaction to this, but my instinct is that more than 3 would get pretty unruly to like let all the different sides speak. And then, so I think there's like a balance between the open-endedness and how many options you're actually giving the floor to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think the power in this comes from the division, the clear distinction between the 2 sides. So any bleed between that then makes the discussion messier.
Right. Yeah.
So that's why, yeah, debate tends to be like, I support or I oppose.
Go ahead, Dov.
Yeah, so one, it addressed my problem with the last with the Venn diagram, in the sense of everyone has their own voice. Like this is a democratic, like it involves everyone. One thing that perhaps I would do differently is to assign people arbitrarily into groups, or even to the groups that they oppose, or invite them to go into the groups that they oppose, and try to find the voice in the thing that they naturally oppose. Might make a more interesting discussion.
I think that's a really interesting, to me, I would say like, that's a great variation, right? On the card is like, you can have people choose the one that they're naturally drawn to, or like a variation would be like a stretch, right? Like, I want you to stretch into the other. I think that's a great variation of the card or the process. Any other variations or tweaks that people are coming to mind? We did the open space one, or kind of like open-ended sourcing from the group, the idea of like encouraging people to go where they don't feel drawn. Any other tweaks, or like, I wonder if you did this, ask people to swap sides and do another round. Yep.
Or even like you could swap sides and do like a fresh debate, or have a few people switch and be like, okay, now we're going to come up with questions for the other team and try to poke holes in what they said previously. So then you've got those like insiders that were part of building the argument that are now tasked with trying to tear it apart.
Nice.
How about voting who won?
Yeah. That's great. As like a as an end or as a final process. Are you requesting to do that
as a
now?
mid process? Like imagine have a first round, then vote who won, and then does anyone want to replace the candidate of your group and win the audience back?
Fascinating. It's like that's really interesting.
I feel like most people would probably vote for their team. They just have that natural bias. So maybe something else like scoring the other team's argument on like clarity and the points that they made and things like that might be interesting. But I don't know if we're getting too technical.
You could also do, if you have a huge group, you could also say, we're only going to have groups of 5 where it's like, you know, you have your corner and I have my corner, like a boxing ring, and then everybody else is the score keepers, you know, and you kind of like do it on a live polling software, like, okay, this side's currently winning oh, actually, I'm going to switch it over here. Like, that was a really good argument. I could see that being like a boxing ring variation.
And if it's a boxing ring, how about doing a background in Zoom of a boxing ring?
Could do.
Could also do like a quick inventory of like where people were drawn to and and then where they are now after listening to the debate.
Yeah. Oh, now we're flowing. Vote before, then vote after. See if you change your mind. Yes. Okay. There's some really great ideas too in the chat here. All right, we have 2 minutes left in our playground, everyone. So I just wanted to say thanks for nerding out with me today and for trying things out. If you have facilitator cards, again, the cards we did are Venn Diagram and Debate Club. We also started with the classic popcorn share around your favorite type of furniture to sit on. If you're like, what the heck are these things? I'll put a link in the chat for you to go find them. If you, because I know folks are here who who maybe just wanted to nerd out about facilitation and not necessarily know what the facilitator cards are. So if that's you, feel free to explore right there. I'll send a follow-up link with the recording in case you want to share that with anybody. And if you have any questions or want to continue to nerd out with me, oh no, I have a meeting right after this, so I can't promise to do that. But send me an email and I will be happy to keep the conversation going. So I'm going to.
Okay, so just one short question.
No,
did you hear of an app called Deckable?
I'm so sorry, Dub. Stick on afterward. I'm going to have us close out before I answer you. Okay, everyone, I'm going to ask us all to sign off my favorite way, which is unmute if you would like. I'm going to count down 3, 2, 1. We're all going to wave goodbye. And I hope to see you all around the internet one more time. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1. Bye.
Bye.
See you all again.